Mima is a Japanese pop idol with the girl group charm. She decides to abandon her singing career, however, wanting to become an actress instead. But in the events that follow, her world is flipped upside down and her grip on reality starts to slip. It is through this film that Kon established himself as a formidable force in the realm of cinema, demonstrating that animation was not limited in the kind of stories it could tell. Perfect Blue defied many of the common practices and conventions of the era, and the result was a film unlike anything seen before. All of these men are gathered, waiting and gossiping. They're all here to see Chan perform live, discussing little details and rumors they've heard that don't exactly strike you as Japan's finest. One man, wandering with what appears to be a magazine of the group, mutters as if he's in a trance. This scene tells us all we need to know. While the idea of celebrities and zealous fans is nothing special, idol culture in Japan takes it to another level. The idol industry commodifies both youth and beauty. It's not a big kept secret either. There are junior idol groups in Japan with members younger than 15, and their fans? Well, most of them are old enough to be their fathers. Being an idol is a short-lived career, with female idols usually expected to retire or graduate by around 25. Meanwhile, male idols typically switch careers between ages 30 to 45. Mima has a stalker. From the first moment we lay our eyes on him, we can sense something amiss. Crouched down and staring up at the stage, we're given a chance to see the performance through his eyes. He's fixated on Mima specifically, his hand placed so it looks as though she's dancing in his palm. He almost never talks, his movement is unnaturally slow, and he has this creepy expression of elation, his face twisting into what's meant to be a smile. He's also always there, taking every opportunity to be close to his Mima. For him, this is not a simple adoration of a talented artist. Unlike the people around him, he sees his time with Mima as an individual experience. Standing with a blank expression, lost in his thoughts, fantasizing about her. When she begins to reshape herself in ways that break the mental fantasy he has built up of her, it becomes a source of distress for him. One scene, following the photo shoot and scandalous release of her topless photos, we see him snatch a magazine displaying her pictures from someone's hand. He then makes his way into the store and buys up all remaining copies of the magazine. Why is he so upset? Well, how he's feeling is actually typical in the context of Japan's idol culture. The men who follow and worship these idols are not paragons of virtue. In fact, idols are frequently sexualized by the very same men. But it's different when the idol chooses to do it on their own terms. Their body and sexual image is not meant to be shared with others. Our stalker doesn't want anyone else to see Mima's body. It's for him alone. Why else do idols have so many stringent rules, especially regarding dating and sex? Because it ruins the fantasy, one that's all about possession. His sense of delusion and entitlement is what makes his character so unsettling. He's convinced that he's the best thing for Mima. It's why when he gets those emails from a person claiming to be her, he eats it up. He's a constant throughout the film, there for one moment and gone the next. There's a tension brewing as we expect him to eventually crack and do something, to act out his desires against Mima. But nothing. Not until... It is only when Mima and her group go on stage and perform that we see Kon's unique editing style begin to emerge. seamless transitions or match cuts give us a glimpse into who our main character is, juxtaposing how she is on stage, in her public life, with her navigating the more mundane activities of daily life. There's no unnecessary dialogue or exposition, just an observation of how she is when no one's around. Kon deliberately avoided saturating his work with too much detail. Instead, his editing allowed for ideas to be conveyed using as little information as possible. He cuts between different points in time and space, and these jumps are so fluid that the flow of the film never feels interrupted. Because of this, the viewer is never given a chance to disengage from what's on the screen. The cuts begin to happen more and more frequently as the film progresses. It becomes disorienting and reflects a disjointed descent into madness that our protagonist experiences. Kon thought that viewers were too used to having their hands held by films, and we can see this viewpoint being expressed in his directing of Perfect Blue, where it is deliberately made difficult to distinguish between what is real and what is fantasy. He considered any attempts to discern and categorize specific scenes as real or not real to go against the purpose of the film. Instead, he thought that the viewer should come to an acceptance of its inexplicable nature, and only then could they find the truth. In an interview, Kon admitted that the film adaptation of Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five, directed by George Roy Hill, served as an influence on his editing technique for the film, particularly the way it connected different times and places together.
I can always tell, when you've been time tripping.
Kon's approach to editing was different. He drew a large part of his inspiration from live-action films as opposed to animation, and he disregarded the expectations that were set on what animation should be, thereby allowing him to create films that spoke to people in a way they weren't used to. How we present ourselves at work, when we're around family and friends, and when we're alone, these are neatly divided sections of our everyday. Kon was deeply interested in how we as people live multiple lives. Perfect Blue toys with the idea of what can happen when an image of you, an idea of who you are, takes on a life of its own. Mima is committed to becoming an actress, but she encounters resistance. Some are not happy with her decision to leave her singing career. She gets a fax message denouncing her as a traitor. Then there's that fan mail she receives that blows up in her agent's face. But the most alarming moment would be when she finds the online diary, made by someone purporting to be Mima herself. Her first gig as an actress, an underwhelming role with one line, "Who are you?" plays to the overarching theme of the film, the loss of your own identity. Mima is at a crossroads. In order to break away from her pop star image, she agrees to act out a rape scene. She is intent on transforming her public image, and she's willing to do something that would be inconceivable during her idol days. And it's a dismal sight. On stage and wearing a skimpy outfit that could be said to resemble a perverse form of her idol dress, several men from the filming crew smile onwards. She's sitting in a kneeling pose, and we can't tell if she's mentally preparing to act or if she's genuinely uncomfortable. The director counts down, and then by doing this, she essentially severs her connection to her former life. She has crossed the point of no return. It's telling that our first introduction to the other Mima is on the train ride the night before the shoot. While there was pressure on her to prove that she had what it takes to become a serious actress, Mima didn't have to go down this route. Her own manager didn't want this for her, breaking down in tears and leaving in the middle of filming. It's an intense performance, one that feels all too real. We're meant to feel uncomfortable. We're rapidly switching back and forth from Mima's face to the perspective through our eyes. We see the rest of the cast playing the man who was supposedly violating her character. The music fades out and is replaced by the sound of clapping and cheering. Her mind turns to an image of her fans from her time as an idol, before completely fading to white. Death of the Idol. This is what Kon named this moment in the film. Because of what transpired, there's a feeling of dread, of having lost something she can never recover. It is after this that Mima's world begins to crumble, and the cracks in her mental state are revealed. She returns home only to find her fish dead, and bursts out in tears. This is just what has pushed her over the edge. She laments that she didn't really want to do it, but she felt obligated to all the people who had brought her this far. Later on, other Mima appears again on the screen of her computer. In the beginning, this alter ego was restrained to just reflections, in a sense, still a part of her. But now that Mima can no longer go back to being an idol, it has become its own thing, a separate entity, over which Mima has no control. Initially, all it could do was cry about not wanting to go through with the rape scene, but now it taunts her and tells her that she'll replace her as the real Mima. It is after this confrontation that the real and the surreal start to merge. Kon himself stated that he was not particularly conscious of the violence in the film. He didn't set out to make a typical splatter horror. In his words, he would show what was necessary to express the true feelings of the characters. Shibuya Takao, he's the writer who came up with the rape scene from earlier. In his parking spot, he finds a blood-stained message waiting for him. Double Bind, the name of his show. The sound of music becomes audible, just barely. It sounds familiar. 2 shots are used to establish the surroundings. There's several breaks in our line of sight. The tension is cut when he yells, "The music stops. Now he makes his way to the elevator. Music's back. This time it's getting louder. He feels cornered and backs up towards the elevator doors. While the film doesn't show us how Takao met his demise, we do see the end product. His eyes have been gouged out. Kon specifically used violence to express emotion. All the murders that take place in the film share a special modus operandi: violence against the eyes. With every victim having at one point gazed upon Mima's image, and perhaps even sought to control it, Mima herself included. Perfect Blue's art style is subdued. The characters are not stylized in the way that was common to animation of the era. Instead, the characters look like real people. Kon wanted to avoid using the same old patterns and artistic conventions that made other anime look so contrived and samey. But just because his art style was more realistic, didn't mean it was boring. He was a master of visual storytelling. And one way he demonstrated this was through the bold use of colors. In Perfect Blue, it's through the use of the color red. The other colors in the film are quite muted, so the red stands out to us. There have been plenty of attempts to analyze and explain how exactly red fits into the narrative of the film, but it would not be fair to say that Kon had one specific purpose or reason for when he used red in certain scenes. But we can tell it's most pronounced in the moments that relate to Mima's mental collapse. In fact, the film causes us to develop an association subconsciously between Mima's spiral and the color red. And this red becomes progressively more and more vivid and present as the nightmare draws closer to completely absorbing Mima's existence. Her idol fans and the benches and seats they sit on, when she's reading their letters, when she reads the diary for the first time, the background is almost entirely taken up by it. We're being conditioned throughout the film to look for the warning sign. And so, when at the peak of her power, other Mima proudly presents her new costume, it's terrifying.
ほら見て見て新しい書なんだお願いやめてでもアイドルはねファンの人たちが守ってくれるの
Kon's use of red also imbues the film with this feeling of otherworldliness. We're so accustomed to the neutral color palette that it's startling to suddenly see so much red. I don't believe Kon's work is constrained to just the intermingling of reality and fantasy. What he really examines is how there's these paired aspects of our lives that are divided by borders. Public life and private life. Waking and dreaming. Facts and memories. These are just some of the elements that Kon's work seeks to deconstruct. And he does it in a truly original way, not constraining his films to fit one genre. In fact, he's more than willing to step into any genre so long as it serves the purpose of the film. Kon's overarching vision for the film was for it to be a coming-of-age story. In an interview, he had this to say: "I simply wanted to show the process of a young girl maturing, becoming confused because her old set of values get shattered, but who was reborn as a mature being as a result of that. That's what I wanted to describe." In case you're unaware, the film is loosely based on a book by the same name, but the plot of the film deviates significantly in large part due to changes made by Kon himself. He was allowed to make any alterations to the story he wanted as long as he retained certain elements from the book. Mima being an idol, the obsessive stalker, and the fact that it was meant to be a horror story. Everything else Kon was free to change. This does not negate all of the other underlying subject matters that the film touches on, but it's important to see what Kon's intention with the film was. To tell a story about growing up and the confusion that comes with that, especially regarding our own identities. Something we can all relate to. But he uses these limitations imposed upon the setting and characters to show it in a way that's truly unique and refreshing. Perfect Blue is a seminal psychological thriller, a testament to how versatile the medium of animation truly is, allowing us to explore complex notions regarding how we as people live.
私は本物だよ